Good afternoon, everyone. We are waiting on one council member who was in the hallway before we get started, so we'll get started in just a few minutes. You good, Jared? All right, everyone. I call the regular scheduled Community Development Human Services meeting to order on Tuesday, June the 11th. I am Jason Winston, chair of the committee. I am joined by my colleagues to my immediate right, Councilmember Jason Dozier, to my immediate left, Councilmember Mary Norwood, and joining us in a moment, Councilmember Liliana Bakhtiari. That does constitute a quorum, so I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Second. I have a second by Councilmember Dozier. Can you please open the vote?
One moment. The vote is open.
Okay.
The vote will be 4 yeas and 0 nays.
All right, thank you. Yes. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. You have a second by Councilmember Bakhtiari. Can you please open the vote?
One moment. Vote is open. Vote is closed. 4 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. That takes us to the public comment section of our agenda. We do have a few speakers. Just a reminder, you'll have 3 minutes once you get to the podium to speak, and I'll gently remind you when you have 30 seconds left. Our first speaker is Ms. Henry Jordan.
Give honor to the Spirit of God, everyone that's here. And the Lord said, I will destroy man whom I have created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, and the creeping thing, and the fowls of the air, for it repenteth me that I have made them. Genesis 6, chapter 7, verse. Repentance does not imply that God made a mistake in his dealings with men, but rather indicate a change in divine direction resulting from the actions of man. If God repented, what about us? And he have no weakness. We need to obey Jesus, James Griffin, and others because he's not self-destructive. Wherefore, my beloved, as ye have always obeyed, not as in my presence only, but now much more in my absence, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. Philippians 2nd chapter 12th verse. Work out your own salvation does not mean that ye should work for salvation in order to obtain it. Jesus gives us a choice. Seek to obey him to have salvation or obey Satan to have destruction for you. Jesus killed my playing spirit. He will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness. For by strength shall no man prevail. 1 Samuel 2nd chapter, now 9th verse. The creator and sustainer of the earth is also the sovereign controller of earth's history and mankind's destiny. If God don't have mercy on you, my mercy should not work against his. Jesus give me power to conquer the playing spirit in me. We are the circumcision which worship God in the spirit and rejoice in Christ Jesus and have no confidence in the flesh. Philippians 3rd chapter 3rd verse. The circumcision or true people of God are described here in three ways. They are who worship God in the spirit. Real Christians also rejoice in Christ. They have no confidence in the flesh. We need Jesus. He don't need us. My flesh didn't create the income, and seeking to obey his word created the income. Christ said, I can't work on your job because he gave me the gift to work for him, not for man. Man didn't create that income. Jesus did. And I must give him the glory. And you owe him the glory also because he made you to give him the glory. It's your choice, but I want to make my choice to seek to obey Jesus no matter what may come my way. I have to put Christ first.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Johnny Martinez. And a reminder, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. Yeah, my name is Johnny Martinez. I'm one of the owners of Joystick Game Bar. My business partner, Keisha Cyrus here, one of the owners of Mambo Zombie. She is the owner of Mambo Zombie. And I'm here to speak on behalf of the fund to help people and businesses, I should say, who are hurt by the water main break. There's some things that I personally think would be very helpful to see. Number one, there's a big difference between how small businesses were impacted and large corporations were impacted. It'd be great if there was some sort of standard by which a certain percentage of that money went to certain size businesses. It would also be great as an employer if there was either a second fund or a larger fund so that we could ensure that employees who lost money that weekend, because right now we're talking about making sure businesses are whole, the sales and lost sales and repairs, but we're not really talking about the people who work there. And at the beginning of the month, a lot of these people they're not making a whole lot of money. They're trying to pay rent. So that just cascades down to other parts of society and really impacts everyone. So separate fund, additional money, or ensuring that a certain amount of that goes to employees. We'll do that anyway, but sometimes you gotta make sure people do the right thing. And then, my third thing is that I assume this will happen anyway, but there has to be some sort of public accountability, right? There needs to be some way by which anyone can search a database to see who received which funds. Because if it turns out that some business that's not impacted, that wasn't in the area, ends up getting a large chunk of money, everyone should know that and why they got it. So I'm glad that y'all are thinking about this. Thank you so much. It's quite frankly well-deserved. Our business lost between, $8,000 and $11,000 that weekend. And that's a lot of money for a small business. We're literally gonna be late on our rent payment because that's where our rent payment was coming from. So I appreciate it. Hopefully y'all can do this quickly, fast, at least for government work, right? And then and make sure it's transparent so that everyone has access. Thank you very much. And I don't know, maybe triple it, maybe 15 million. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. And just so the general public knows, we will have some information and specific details to the program today from Invest Atlanta. So thank you. Our next speaker is Charles Captain. And again, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good afternoon. I'm here representing the folks from A Better Amsterdam Walk who are very concerned about overdevelopment in our community. Morningside, Virginia Highlands, we're all low-rise buildings. There are no glass towers, there are no high-rise buildings. And the proposal by Portman Holdings will forever change our neighborhood. Amsterdam Walk is a small cul-de-sac. It's bordered by on three sides. There's only one way in, Monroe Drive. Only one way out, Monroe Drive. It cannot withstand massive increase in traffic. All these projects anywhere in Atlanta have infrastructure impacts, and the impact of this project is too massive for our community. The traffic study that was conducted, which supposedly says it's okay to add 4,000 cars per day onto Monroe Drive, and it will be fine. Anybody who knows anything about Monroe Drive knows that that simply is impossible. The traffic study is flawed. They chose one day, a random Tuesday, to make all these conclusions about the impact onto Monroe Drive. The land use amendment, which you are considering, it's not just a change in the land use amendment. The change itself doesn't have impacts. But if the project goes ahead based on the change in the land use amendment plus the rezoning, then the project happens, and then all the impacts on infrastructure, on schools, on traffic. That is what we cannot bear, or I should say the community cannot bear. The original master plan that was a Beltline master plan adopted there's nothing in there about 15 stories or 13 stories. It's capped at 9 stories, and that's the cap. In the Beltline master plan approved by the City Council in 2011, even the 347 apartments that are mentioned in that plan, it says in a small footnote, it says, this proposed density is based on there being public transit stop within 1/4 of a mile of those 347 apartments. Well, as we all know, light rail was never built, and there is no transit stop. So there's a new master plan that is being considered. It's in a draft form. It increases the amount of density onto Amsterdam Walk, even more apartments. Portman wants to build 840. We're asking you to grandfather in the existing constraints and height limitations from the original master plan so that we don't get something that is ridiculously too large for us to bear. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Jacinta O'Sullivan. You'll have 3 minutes.
Atlanta, with its pro-business environment, diverse culture, and favorable climate, is a desirable place to live and has become one of the fastest growing cities in the U.S. Growth, however, is a primary challenge and must be carefully planned so as not to destroy all the things that make our city wonderful. One of the key ingredients that has made the city in the forest great is its vibrant neighborhoods that attracts the people, that brings the businesses. Placing a monster development in a single-family cul-de-sac neighborhood with one road that is already at capacity is not good planning and places in jeopardy all the things that has made this city great. Do not be mistaken, this mega development will have a huge impact, a negative impact on the traffic, water, police, fire department, emergency services, schools, and quality of life. I experienced firsthand when a lady collapsed with a head injury on Monroe Drive. The emergency service could not make it to the location due to traffic. Eventually, I had to drive her myself 30 minutes later to the hospital. Luckily, the lady survived on this occasion. However, just think for 1 second if that was your loved one relying on the goodness of a total stranger. This issue is much more than infrastructure. It's about safety and the quality of life. The condition of the roads adjacent to Amsterdam Walk are atrocious and in need of repair. Who here has not hit a pothole or a steel plate? I personally have broken 2 wheel frames on Monroe Drive over the past 2 years, barely avoiding a serious accident recently. Adding a conservatively 2,400 daily trips from this proposed development would be a disaster. Monroe simply cannot handle this extra volume in terms of safety, usability, and infrastructure. The City of Atlanta has an aging water supply infrastructure system, which is in decay, and we all experienced this firsthand these last few days. I ask, is this the image we want for our city? An infrastructure that can't cope? The scale of this proposed development will place further strain on a stressed system and exacerbate an already dire situation. In 2011, a master plan committee consisting of Halpern Enterprises and leading business and political leaders of the day put forward a Beltline master plan that proposed light rail to be in place before any density could be added adjacent to the Beltline. Why is light rail now being completely ignored and being opposed by Portman Holdings? Atlanta is at a crossroads with this proposed development. Do we want to destroy what is good with overdevelopment and gridlock, or follow a path of thoughtful development that respects its neighbours and at a scale that doesn't overwhelm the infrastructure or quality of
30
life
seconds.
of its residents? At the MPUF, residents voted overwhelmingly against this mega development, and we sincerely ask this committee to defer the vote with instructions to Portman to negotiate further reductions in scale and scope of the project to align it with the Beltline Master Plan Sub-Area 6. Thank you for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all our speakers who signed up today. For those who spoke about Amsterdam Walk, just a reminder that it will be on the Zoning Review Board's agenda this Thursday night. So with that, we conclude our public comment section of our agenda. Councilman Bakhtiari? Yes. And that you can sign up to speak public comment at the Zoning Review Board hearing.
The recommendation, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. So what y'all spoke here today, thank you for sharing. I would also encourage you to be in attendance at the Zoning Review Board on Thursday evening when it's held. It'll be held on the second floor, either in this room or in committee or in the main chambers. So would encourage you to also show up there as well. Thank you.
Thank you. This takes us to the presentation section of our agenda. So we have two quarterly updates today, one from the Atlanta Beltline, Inc. and the other from the Parks and Recreation Department. So we'll start off with Atlanta Beltline, Inc. and CEO Clyde Higgs.
All right, good afternoon, members of the committee, my board member, Mr. Winston, good to see you all. I am going to go through these slides relatively quickly, but happy to stop and answer any specific questions that you may have. It has been a brisk 3 months for the Beltline. We were fortunate yesterday, along with the mayor, to host the King and Queen of the Netherlands on the Beltline. That was a treat for all of us, but exciting times for the People's Project. Just real quick, one of the things that we focus on the Beltline, people think about the project as a trail, but it really is about people in our community. So we like to focus on our small businesses along the Beltline. This Beltline Business Ventures graduation picture that you see is a part of a cohort. So this is the Beltline's first business accelerator program, where we're actually providing wraparound services to small businesses so they can grow and scale on the Beltline. So this accompanies our marketplace program, where we actually provide affordable commercial space as well to these small businesses. We charge them less than $300 a month. They get a physical place on the Beltline where they can operate, again, with these wraparound services. And on the affordable housing side, you probably saw an announcement maybe 2 weeks ago in partnership with Invest Atlanta, Atlanta Housing, the city, obviously, and that was the groundbreaking for Inglewood. And so that's going to be a new development specifically for seniors, 160 units. With the Benoit Group, but super excited about that. That's the type of product that we need on the Beltline. But that's a great example of cooperation amongst all the various agencies that think about housing affordability in the city of Atlanta. And then also you probably saw an announcement again about Murphy's Crossing. This is a long time coming, but this is a 22-acre site off of the West Side Trail that the Beltline has owned for some time. And we are happy to announce that we have selected Cul-de-sac out of Arizona to be our development partner. They are noteworthy because they are making strides in the United States about redeveloping projects, doing mixed-use developments without parking. That is music to our ears. And so Murphy's Crossing will also have those highlights. It's going to be 1,100 units, with about 30% of those being affordable, 5% of those being permanently affordable. So this is going to have a lot of the highlights that we care about, not only residential affordability, but commercial affordability on this site as well. And on the affordable housing production side, one of the things that we're particularly proud of, if you look at our numbers over the last 3 years, we have been exceeding our annual affordable housing production number. We expect to do the same thing for this calendar year, but we are approaching over 70% of the 5,600 unit goal that we are promising the community with regards to an affordable housing number. And again, and that is because of cooperation amongst all the organizations that think about housing affordability. We also continue to advance the Legacy Resident Retention Fund. This is our not-for-profit partner that stood up a program actually to pay people's property taxes that continue to grow. And so the deal structure is that there is a base year of property tax. If it goes from $1,000 to say $2,000, this program has the ability to pay that difference in property tax as the Beltline goes through and other improvements go through. And about a month ago, we were honored to have a number of White House guests to visit Atlanta and the Beltline. We were also in the midst of making a very significant announcement, and that's to accelerate Beltline construction. And so you all may be happy to know that before FIFA World Cup arrives in Atlanta in 2026, we will have almost 18 miles of continuous Beltline trail 6 months ahead of when the visitors arrive for FIFA. Super exciting for us. The reason that we're able to do that is because of a number of events in the past. The passage of the SSD about 3 years ago, the philanthropic funding, and the TAD. And Councilmember Winston knows this because of our budget discussions, but the TAD is now getting close to $100 million. When I first joined the Beltline 8-9 years ago, our total budget, including grants, was about $33 million. This year's budget for the Beltline is going to be about $170 million. So we are in a strong position with regards to Beltline completion. And just a quick snapshot on some of the updates on Southside Trail segments 2 and 3. This is roughly a 2-mile stretch from Pittsburgh Yards to Boulevard. We have selected a general contractor, and we expect to have that completed early first quarter 2026. And also, Councilmember Winston, you know that we are in the throes of finishing segments 4 and 5. That should be completed around this time next year. So we will have the entire stretch of the Southside Trail completed the end of 2025, early 2026. And this has been a significant feat. I'm particularly excited about this because this is the East Side Trail and the West Side Trail finally being connected because of these efforts. And also in 2025, we expect to finish West Side Trail segments 4. And this is from Washington Park to Hollowell. Again, just more activity. Again, by the end of this year, 85% of the Beltline will be under construction or completed. Again, just I don't know that we could have had that conversation 4 years ago, to be fully transparent. Also, we are responsible for a number of things with regards to Beltline beyond the trail, and that includes complete streets. We are happy to announce that we are finishing up the RDA Complete Streets project. Had a couple of rough conversations there with community and or at least some of the businesses that had to endure our construction. But ultimately, I think most people are happy with the finished product there because you will have wider sidewalks, pedestrian crossings there so that people can access the buildings significantly. And then also we're excited that we're going to start Council member, I know you're happy about Anoda Park as well, but we expect to start construction on that this calendar year. We are going to use TAD funds. That was ultimately supposed to be a philanthropically funded project, but we're going to use the TAD dollars because it's growing so much, and these are one of the projects that we're going to spend that excess on. And then also, the Great Northwest Trail will start. Councilmember Norwood, you will be happy to hear about this. But just for those that are listening out there, the Northwest Trail provides significant challenges for us technically. It is roughly about a 4.5-mile stretch where we don't have existing Beltline rail to pull up. And so we have hired the Path Foundation to be our agent to help us to go through existing streets, roads, neighborhoods to make this section happen. But we will start the groundbreaking, and please mark your calendars for June 24th, but that will be the first groundbreaking for the Northwest Trail, and super excited about that. And also, for those folks that are in the Northwest segment of the Beltline, Segment 1 will be completed this fall. Segment 1 of the Northeast Trail is what we like to describe as the Piedmont Park segment of the Beltline. This is roughly a 1-mile stretch from Monroe, 10th and Monroe, up to Westminster. Very excited about that. We had a groundbreaking on that last year, but again, just more and more activity. I'm sure everyone is super excited when they hear these announcements from the Beltline. But it's not only going to be trail, but there's going to be improvement. There's going to be a plaza for people to gather and cross safely across this intersection, which has always been a challenge. But that's one of the things that I'm excited about, is just the safety aspects of that segment. And then also, you probably remember an announcement from the mayor about 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, about this infill strategy for future transit. And essentially what that means is developing a new station between existing stations in our current MARTA rail system, heavy rail system. And so right now we are studying that. There's going to be 4 new infill stations. Murphy, Armour, Krog, and Boone are the locations that we're targeting there. Still very early. We need to figure out the financial design and what that's going to be, but definitely makes sense with regards to our future transit ambitions. And then lastly, we were super excited to host our second Beltline Lantern Parade on the west side. Councilmember Dozier, we were hosting also Congressmember Nikema Williams and her family there, but a very festive crowd. I think we perhaps almost doubled what we did last year. You could feel that the energy was there. It was kind of hard to walk around, but definitely a festive night there. And so that is the conclusion of my official report. Happy to stop and answer any questions that you may have.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. I'll start off by opening it up for comments or questions from my colleagues. All right, Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Well, first, good afternoon.
How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful.
Thank you, Clyde. I was curious, I'm always going to ask this question. When we talk about affordability, how are y'all defining affordable?
Well, yeah, in our redevelopment plan, affordability for the Beltline was always described as 80% of area median income, but what we practice is 60% of area median income. So for instance, even in your district, Madison Reynoldstown, you have deep affordability there at 30% of area median income.
With the teacher housing that we worked on.
Absolutely. And so
Congratulations on having apartments up for lease.
that is music to my ears, but that is the goal. And I will tell you the unsung hero of that strategy, and this again with partnership with all the agencies, is making sure that we secure land. And so we talked about Pittsburgh Yards, we bought that, and we bought Chapel Road. That allows us to do the deep and permanent affordability out there. So that's the unsung hero of the affordability show.
Yeah, because I mean, I know I'll be preaching to the choir here. Obviously, having deeper affordability alongside what is supposed to be a major transit opportunity, so that people do not have to
Amen.
drive, would be,
Right.
I mean, is the
Absolutely.
ultimate goal.
Absolutely.
But to your point, land is always incredibly important part of that formula. So
Indeed.
we'll continue to work on it. Happy to hear, though, about the affordability piece. Of course, I'm always hoping for, as we lose more of our, middle and low income housing, always hoping to strive for that along along major transit opportunities. But thank you. I'm happy to hear that. The next question I had was the piece on the protecting of legacy residents, which is fantastic, and I have directed a lot of my seniors that way. How are y'all getting the word out?
Yeah, so we actually have a street team that is going out, doing door knocking. We're doing education sessions. And again, I got to give credit to the Atlanta Beltline Partnership for pushing that. But we have people that are directly going into community. Because you can imagine, it sounds a little strange if someone is coming to your community and say, hey, we're willing to pay your property tax. And so it's a process to gain trust. We learned a lot from the West Side Future Fund because they were actually the trailblazers in this space, and getting people to actually adopt it and know that this is a real program and safe, that we're not trying to take anyone's home. It takes a while, but right now they have almost 230 people approved in the program right now.
Fantastic. And I'm guessing you're pulling that data from public sources and tax parcels and everything else.
For sure.
And it's targeted towards homeowners, but not senior renters?
So it is not targeted towards renters at this point. There's a few things that we're thinking through from a renter's perspective. We're just not quite there yet.
And there's an educational component that comes with the program in terms of estate building, fiscal literacy, all of those pieces.
Indeed. And the prevailing message there is don't sell your home. But if you do, be educated in what that means. And so just making sure that people have all the information.
We are launching a door knocking a pilot in Brillainstown because of the seniors that have been hit there so hard. And so would love to have, if Beltline has done any door knocking there, would love to see any of the information that y'all recovered. And if you haven't, also please tell me that as well. Brillainstown is arguably, as I'm certain most of our neighborhoods along the Beltline are our most rapidly developing neighborhoods. And so if they're in a lot of those, Brillainstown was the first neighborhood established by freed slaves in Atlanta.
Yep.
I can count the number of Black legacy families left in my neighborhood on two hands. And so making sure that I am continuing to protect them with the help of resources like this, if there's a way that we could partner on that, I would be deeply appreciative. If you have any data you could send to me, I'd be deeply appreciative.
Indeed. I will ask my colleagues, Jill Johnson, who's in the audience, to make sure you get that information for sure.
Hey, Jill. Thank you. Y'all should never get rid of her. Just hold her forever.
Yes.
Have her take a blood oath.
Yes.
Jill's fantastic.
She is. I'm on the record saying that. She told me she's going to stay forever.
You are, Jill. We're not letting you go. So the last question I had was, of course, I was curious about what the plans are for the public art program with 6 years left in the ABI legislation.
Yeah, so right now we're in the midst of hiring, so we've elevated that position. So we're going to bring on a director for arts and culture and thinking about the legacy of the Beltline. There is a thought right now that we will focus on iconic art pieces along the Beltline. That will be the shift. Again, this is not in stone, but from a legacy perspective, how can we leave iconic art pieces on the cardinal directions on the Beltline? Like a significant piece in the north, a significant piece on the south, a significant piece on the east and the west. And we're talking about large-scale infrastructure type of art, like the Bean. And so that's one of the things that we're studying right now. Not baked in stone, but that's what we're thinking about. Yeah.
And no shade to the Bean, but I think Atlanta Artists can come up with a lot better.
Yeah, for sure.
And the other piece, I was hoping to request moving forward if you all would not mind including the component, the arts component of the Beltline and what is happening. Just because, one, I will die on this hill over and over again. Arts obviously creates more funds for the city than sports and entertainment combined. We have, as we know, Atlanta has a very small arts budget that needs massive improvement. But I think it could help with centering and elevating what art is to us because the Beltline is a prime example of opportunities that were not there prior, that has elevated a lot of artists. I mean, Miranda Kyle, that's going to be some tough shoes to fill. Miranda, I want to give Miranda Kyle a shout out. She worked with you all. Y'all gave her the platform to create an incredible program. And so if there's a way for us to get to, one, be more public about it so people know that it's important, but also you would be helping to educate and show us what an important component arts and culture is as part of the project, as you said, infrastructure pieces and everything else, but just so that we can better elevate art in our city. And with this, that could be included in some of the presentations moving forward, so we're asking proper questions about it and centering it and celebrating it. That would be wonderful.
Indeed. And next time we will share. So one of the things we have is the Beltline Business Ventures, the Artists Edition. And so we're essentially having an artist incubator for artists that are very good at performing their craft, but need those wraparound services from a financial perspective, from a legal perspective, to help them grow it as a business. And so we're thinking about this comprehensively for sure.
Awesome. And yes, so moving forward, I would just love to have that be a part of the
Absolutely.
presentation, especially with all of the exciting things coming down the line with 6 years left in legislation, just to have a better understanding.
Perfect. Will
Thank
do.
you.
All right.
Appreciate it. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. And we've been joined by Councilmember Andrea Boone.
That's a council
Obviously,
member.
coming from kind of the back heels of Councilmember Dozier being on the board, I've seen this presentation and a lot more, so that doesn't mean we don't have a lot of questions. But I want to talk more about the Protecting Legacy Residents. So I've had conversations with some of my constituents asking, are we thinking about, expanding those sub-area zones, just because, now we're seeing the effects of people that are kind of in a border gray area that could also use some help and protection. So I'm just wondering, are we thinking about expanding that, or are there any conversations around that?
For sure. And the current sub areas, those were the areas of greatest need. And also, the funds are limited. So just for background, these are privately raised funds. They're not TAD dollars. I think the belief is that we can't use TAD dollars to pay for property taxes. And so we have to go out and actually fundraise for that. And so yes, the hope is that we will expand that. But the current pot is what we have to date. But the need is greater than those sub areas that we've identified for sure.
Do you have a timeline, for example, if there's a certain period where you still have funds available that you might be able to expand the program?
Yeah, so the math is that for those two sub areas that we have the ability to pay people's property tax for about 10 years. And it was always the thought that this would be a temporary fix until we could figure out a policy fix there. And again, I know there are some gray areas about what the state can do, but I think the state should be our partner in this and giving some relief to people in their property taxes. So this is really kind of a stopgap until we could figure out a full policy fix for this. But I do need to give a shout out to Georgia Power, Google, the Woodruff Foundation for providing those initial funds there. But yes, we fully hope to expand that if we can raise the additional funds.
And then I know Councilmember Dozier and I we're holding out hope that Mechanicsville may join in on the field station, but really excited about seeing those come on board. You briefly mentioned kind of working on the financial models to kind of figure out what the timeline is going to look like. Any idea, how that's going to look?
Yeah, it's going to be hard work. Again, full transparency, because I don't want to get held to a number, but you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars for an infill station, singular. And so we got to figure that out. Is it going to be a public-private partnership? More MARTA funds, and so we need to figure what that's going to look like. I've been out visiting pension funds that invest in infrastructure to see if they might be an opportunity, but it's going to be hard work and very early. We just got to make sure that we got everyone on the same page about what that looks like. But it's an exciting thing. This is one of the right things to do with regards to our transit needs. It's going to get people directly to the Beltline. So I applaud the strategy all day, but it's just still very early, and we're trying to figure out the financial design there.
Okay. All right, I appreciate that. We've also been joined by Councilmember Antonio Lewis. Are there any other questions from my colleagues? Councilmember Boone.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your great work. There's an elderly couple at the corner of South Gordon and Ralph David Abernathy, where you all are doing some great work. They are having some issues there. Miss Dolores Pickens Sharp.
Okay.
Will you please have someone from your staff reach out to the family? They've been there probably over 50 years.
Oh, okay.
Dolores Pickens Sharp and her husband. They're at the corner, right at the corner of South Gordon and RDA. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I will note that to Jill and Bryson to make sure that we definitely follow up with Ms. Sharp, for sure.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
Thank you so much, Mr. Clyde and the Atlanta Beltline, for all the
Good to
service,
see you. All right.
all the service, all the work you've been doing in our area. I always say that when I was elected, folks didn't even know what the Beltline was on the southernmost part of my district, but now you've brought it alive to them. And so the South Side Trail segments 2 and 3, are there any updates on when the completion will be for that? Thank you so much for finding the funding for it as well.
Yeah, so I will share, and I have to make sure I'm giving lots of credit out there. The WOW team is how I like to describe them. This is Williams, Warnock, and Ossoff. They are spectacular in DC for us, and they found a number of funds to help support the Southside Trail along with ARC. But we expect to finish segments 2 and 3 by the first quarter of 2026. That's the goal, and that will be, 4 to 6 months ahead of FIFA World Cup. So we are blowing and going, excited about that segment. Our construction costs actually came in fairly reasonable. So we budgeted a certain price for that segment, but actually the bids came in lower than that. So I think that's just a blip on the radar. I think we were also fortunate that one of the contractors was already out there doing segments 4 and 5, and they were able to realize some cost savings, but very, very excited about segments 2 and 3.
And I was looking at the entire loop. That would mean that people on the south side could travel to the east side trail all the way to the west side trail. With the Beltline purchasing the acreage of land over at Pittsburgh Yards, I will say that the community has been very loud that they want to see it look like Ponce City Market. The community has been very loud that Ponce City Market has a Kroger, and they feel they that they have the things there, and they love to work with the Beltline on that. Lastly, I look at my district like a puzzle, and we're always putting pieces in it. And so complete transparency, Southside completion is a huge deal to our puzzle because you hadn't started on it before we got elected. Now the entire piece is paid for. That was a secret to get that stuff done. The next piece of the puzzle was approved by the CIE yesterday when they're approving it in our area, and it's going to connect South Atlanta High School to the Atlanta Beltline, and that's through the Southtown Trail.
Yes.
So I know that we have meetings coming up for that, but I want to just commend you on being a part of helping me put this puzzle together and connecting the furthest south in the city you can go to the Atlanta Beltline. It shows when you say puzzles and someone has to be able to see it, it shows the imagination because no one could. They were saying, how do you go from Jonesboro Road to the Beltline? It just doesn't work. So thank you for your imagination and thank you for your innovation.
Thank you for pointing that out. I will say I am just, again, I've been the CEO for about 5.5 years now. And again, when I first started, it was very ambiguous that we could even finish the whole loop by 2030. And now you see these additional funds. You probably saw the big announcement for even taking the Beltline to the Flint River Trail. So going through Aerotropolis, all the way to Flint, that's significant. So think about this. You'll be able to get in from Brookhaven, hit the Beltline, get on the West Side Trail, go to the Silver Comet Trail, go south. It is just fantastic to see what's happening and giving people an option to get around the city without having to get in a car.
And there's also the partnerships. That's a partnership with the Atlanta Beltline and specifically in the planning department, Mr. Rasheen. Rasheen and the planning department, helping me find funding that I didn't even know existed. So thank you, and thank you to the department for making us put these pieces to the puzzle on the south side together. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. No other questions. So we appreciate your quarterly update, and look forward to seeing you at Atlanta Beltlines.
See you in the
board meeting this
morning.
week.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to our next quarterly report from the Department of Parks and Recreation. We have with us Commissioner Cutler.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How y'all doing? Good. Well, thank you, Chair Winston and members of the CDHS committee. My name is Justin Cutler, Commissioner of Parks and Recreation. And first, as always, I always like to start by thanking a couple people on our team and just our many partners. So first and foremost, thank you to the men and women of the Department of Parks and Recreation staff. During the summer, we hire over 500 young people and older adults too that come out and work for our Camp Best Friends program. They work as our lifeguards. They work as our park seasonal workers. They do so much. So thank you first and foremost to our DPR staff team. I'd also like to give a special shout out to the Department of Procurement. These men and women help us buy a product. They help us make sure that we have enough procure roofs and new buildings to make sure that we have what we need to do to make things happen. Thank you real quick to the Department of Law for all their amazing work in getting our agreements, our legislation and items reviewed. APD for helping us coordinate safety and security at all of our parks. Constituent services for our partnerships on many events. And also to AIM. If you did not know this, Georgia state law pool code requires that we have hardline telephones at all of our sites. And so due to a last minute scramble, we worked with AT&T over Memorial Day weekend to get some of our pools up and running so that they could be open, specifically at South Bend Park. We made the extra effort, and AIM and CIO Sankey really helped us come through with AT&T to make sure that we get all of our pools open because they require a copper line to open up. So thank you to the many partners at the Department of Parks and Recreation that help us get things done every day. As a reminder, our vision and mission statement really boil down to these three things: invest, connect, and grow. How are we investing in our parks and recreation assets and systems, making sure that we have the right people, the right programs, connecting people and programs with community through marketing, advertisement, and additional programming, and grow our system, making sure that we have great additional programming, additional parks, so everybody is within a 10-minute walk. If you did not hear this last year, the Trust for Public Land designated Atlanta as in the top 25 now at number 25 parks and recreation agencies, with now over 79% of Atlantans being within a 10-minute walk of a park. And that's up from 77% last year. So kudos to the Department of Parks and Recreation and our partners at the Conservation Fund, the Trust for Public Land, and the Mayor's Green Space Advisory Council for being laser focused on making sure that we can connect everybody within a 10-minute walk of a park. Some recap items. This is the data that I know we all like to see when we come to these presentations. So we continue to hit targets in garbage can and litter pickup. Also, arborists are doing a phenomenal job reviewing permits and permit applications. Our forestry team, we haven't had a major storm yet, knock on the wood here. So they've been able to keep up with down trees. Our electrical team has been doing a great job. We continue to struggle in the HVAC area as long lead items take longer than expected. We're also hiring a second shift, and they'll start this summer. So our typical shift for our skilled service teams, these are the HVAC professionals, the carpentry team, the electrical team, and plumbing team. They're typically off. They work 7 to 3, Monday through Friday. And now we'll have a second team that comes on and works 3 to 11. This is part of our millage plan, and this will help improve these numbers and improve service at our recreation centers and our parks. Also, our activity participation has been up year over year. As you can see here, basketball was just a titch down, but top basketball was up over 43%, so that's our future basketball participants. They'd have done a great job. Our swim lessons are up 17%, our out-of-school time's up 10%, and our teens are up 39% year over year, and our seniors up 7%. So the team has been doing a great job bringing new programs to our parks and recreation centers. Also, we completed over 1,384 permits between December of 2023 and April of 2024. Our golf continues to outperform year over year from 6 years ago when American Golf ran our operations. So every quarter since about 6 years ago, we've seen revenue hit the previous quarter, which is amazing. And the team does a great job. Recently, we celebrated last week investments of over $2.2 million at Tup Homes Golf Course. We have invested at Chastain with new cart paths the prior year, and the prior to that, new cart paths and new restrooms at Browns Mill. And we have all new electric golf carts at all of our golf facilities at our three golf courses. Candler is still a walking course, but we have all new golf carts. And the funny thing is that people at Browns Mill, they just realized that we got new cart paths because our old golf carts were not of the standard that people could even recognize that the cart paths were brand new. So we've been getting positive feedback on the cart paths at Browns Mill now, that we have great new carts. And our tennis program, the new vendor continues to do a great job bringing in over $590,000 in revenue, as well as driving that back into our programs. I'll be talking a little bit later about new summer camp programs at our tennis and pickleball at our racket centers to make sure everybody has access to tennis programming. Some highlights on hiring. As you can see from this slide, we're working to hire over 125 lifeguards, currently onboarding 25 additional lifeguards right now. 165 teens will be employed across our different sites, totaling over 574 people that will be involved in our Camp Best Friends and our aquatics program. And as you can see from the slide below, or the little chart here below, that's 557 people in this fiscal year. That's 81% fill rate and a vacancy rate of 19. So we're finally below that 20% threshold, and the team has done a phenomenal job hiring and bringing back on staff. Also this year, summer food. We're up from 37 sites last calendar year to over 51 sites. That's a 28% increase. Our biggest increase was our 16, we have 16 mobile sites and 35 traditional sites all throughout the city of Atlanta. Also, we're offering meals now at all of our outdoor pools. So if you come to an outdoor pool, not only do you get in for free, but you can also grab a meal at our pools. And this is a great way that we can provide additional services at our facilities and connect people to food and help overcome food insecurity in our community. So really proud of that and what the team's been able to do there. Last Friday, we had a kickoff event at Roselle Fan Community Center where we celebrated our summer food program from 11 to 1, and it was a great activity. And we implemented a new meals app tracker to help us improve accuracy and efficiency, which means that our reimbursement will be better to help us fund more lunch programs and food programs for our community. Our pool and splash pads opened on May 1st. All 8 opened, and we operated through Memorial Day weekend. Our outdoor pools had over 9,845 people come through the doors Saturday and Sunday and Monday of Memorial Day weekend. So we had a great opening weekend. We have new pool equipment. All of our outdoor pools have received new layback chairs, if you will. I forget the Chase lounges, that's what they've got. They're white plastic, so they won't get too hot, but a lot of people were clamoring about needing places to sit when they come to our outdoor pools. So that's new at our community. And also our indoor pools. Thank you, Councilmember Boone, for your advocacy to make sure our indoor pools are free as well for a window of time during the day when young people are looking to be active and swim. So our indoor and outdoor pools are free this summer, so people have the opportunity to cool off. Also on June 20th, in partnership with the YMCA, WABE, and Sears Pool and the American Red Cross and APS now, we'll be hosting the world's biggest swim lesson on June 20th as part of our commitment to the Atlanta Water Safety Coalition, and this will be at the East Lake YMCA. Last year, if we remember, we were at Grant Park Pool, so this year we're at a YMCA facility. Next year we'll be at a City of Atlanta facility. So this is a great way that we can bring awareness to water safety, and May was National Water Safety Month, and thank you, Council, for approving a proclamation recognizing that as well. Our Playmobile. We do recognize that some parts of our community don't have access to a recreation center, and so we've launched our Playmobile program. This will visit 18 park sites between June and September. We'll also be attending Atlanta Streets Live this weekend, as well as being at the Family Fun Day, 1 to 5 at Wilson Mill Park. Please make sure you get that on your calendar. We'll have Greg Street DJ, we'll have some performances, drum lines, we'll have free food and fun. It's gonna be a great event, right, Councilmember Boone? We're going to check it out today as well. Make sure everything's looking sharp, so we'll have a great event. Also, we have popsicles in the park, movies in the park, community block parties is where our Playmobile will be, health fairs and summer camp celebrations. So our Playmobile is a way that we get out to every neighborhood to make sure that everybody has access to great recreation opportunities. Next up, some great summer events. We have our Popsicles in the Park. This is the 3rd year that we're doing our Popsicles in the Park as part of our commitment to One Safe City, 7 locations throughout Atlanta. This is in partnership with Atlanta Fire Rescue, Welcoming Atlanta, and ATL 311. We also have movies in the park. We're going to be doing 24 movies this year. That's up from 10 last year in 2023. All family-friendly movies, and the Playmobil will be present, so please make sure you check out that. They'll be at many parks throughout the city, and we'll be sending y'all a flyer here shortly. Summer would not be summer without summer camps, and Camp Best Friends is celebrating its 43rd year of Camp Best Friends. This year alone, we have over 3,224 people registered. That's an increase of 12% over last year. So kids are coming out, and I keep telling people this is the best value in Atlanta. It's $35 a week plus a small fee for your field trip, and we help families that can't afford the field trip to be able to pay for the field trip, but we want people to come out and join us at Camp Best Friends. Also, we brought back the Day at the Lake experience, so we're going back up to Lake Allatoona where young people will get their first fishing experience, their first boating experience on our great pontoon boat. So please sign your kids up. There's still room available at our Camp Best Friends program. And also, we have tennis camps at our 5 racket centers for ages 4 to 18 years of age. We also have our USTA Junior Tennis Apprenticeship program, and that's at 17 parks and on our 5 racket centers. And our golf program also will serve over 150 to 200 junior campers through our golf program. So that's a great way that we help young people get out and have a great time. And our Teen Academy continues to go strong. We're serving over 305 teens across 6 summer locations. They'll have a Atlanta Teen Leader Academy fashion show, hoodie ball, summer basketball league that starts up here shortly, and a podcast that's releasing weekly episodes. So please make sure you go online to your favorite podcast subscription service and check that out. We also have seniors. Seniors love to get into Camp Best Friends as well. So we have a senior Camp Best Friends program at 8 locations here that you see on the slide and on our website and social media. Check out they'll be checking out the National Center for Civil and Human Rights. They'll be having our annual white picnic, all-white picnic, our annual peach orchard trip, summer jazz concert, and the John Tanner State Park annual picnic. So our seniors are active in staying healthy, connecting, and reducing loneliness among our senior population thanks to Senior Camp Best Friends. Some new offerings just for this summer. One of the things that we realized is that we need to continue to grow our youth girls sports activities. And we've had a request to launch girls flag football. So we'll be having 6 sites in a league offering girls flag football. If you weren't aware, many high schools around Georgia are now offering girls flag football, both in middle school and high school. And so we want to make sure that we're providing more opportunities for our young ladies. And so we're launching girls flag football. We also have a great esports lab at Thomasville. We're piloting soccer, launching our first futsal-centric youth soccer program that will happen 2 times a week in anticipation of the World Cup, and we'll continue to evolve that program to a full-fledged soccer league. And I'm happy to report that 39 pickleball overlays and 6 dedicated courts have been completed as part of our pilot. And we have more dedicated pickleball courts coming to all of our racket centers as well as outdoor courts across the city of Atlanta because we know people enjoy playing pickleball. And we also want to make sure that people are safe when they come to our recreation centers and to our parks. And so we recently hired a director of public safety, as well as a safety manager and our security manager. We have over 250 new cameras this quarter alone in 7 parks, including Grant, Washington, C.T. Martin, Catherine Johnson, John A. White, C.A. Scott, and Woodruff Park, as well as installing additional cameras at Piedmont, Selena Butler, Adams, Anthony Flanagan, Deerwood, William Walker, and Peachtree Hills. And all of those cameras are connected to the Video Integration Center. And we are working to hire our own Video Integration Center staff that will be monitoring the park-specific cameras and coordinating with APD and our park rangers to make sure we're responding to emergencies as well. Not only do we keep people safe, we also take care of the trees and the plants in our parks. And so the City of Atlanta is committed to protecting and preserving our natural areas through the removal of invasive species. We have 48 invasive species plant control events happening this year. We're also working to hire a director of natural resources as approved in the budget and at the advisement of the Green Space Advisory Council. So that will be a new position and a new team dedicated to removing kudzu and different invasive species from our parks and our natural areas and thinking about how we can be better land stewards of our urban forest. And we recently received and will be launching this summer, and new legislation will be coming to you shortly, for our Urban and Community Forestry Grant. This was a $5 million grant that we received from the federal government as part of last fiscal year. So a lot of great things happening. Here's a quick review of our budget. And thank you for your approval of the budget. Over the last couple of years, we've seen over a 28% increase between fiscal year 23 and 24. So thank you for helping us to be able to continue to serve the community in a great way. This is a summary of our millage expenditures. We worked with Community Center for Employment Opportunities, and we're working with people formally that have formal criminal history to employ them in our park service. And they're out picking up litter, making sure our parks look great, and helping to keep our parks looking sharp. Also, we're investing in the Beltline. I know Mr. Clyde Higgs was up here earlier, and so we're investing $750,000 in fiscal year 24 and 25 to improve graffiti removal, litter pickup, and also litter pickup on evenings and weekends. So working hard to make sure all of our parks and trails look great. And with that, thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Cutler, for a very thorough quarterly update. I'll start by opening it up to my colleagues. Any questions? Councilmember Boone.
Thank you, Commissioner. Very happy to see that our seniors will be in several different places over the summer. That is really, really wonderful. We were scheduled to meet with an organization that's interested in girls and youth sports. So I want to make sure that we do touch bases with that organization.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
They want to offer us some things, and I would love to see that expanded as well. But again, just so very happy to see the seniors will be all over Atlanta, traveling and going to the Civil and Human Rights Museum and to the Peach Orchid. Again, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Commissioner Cutler. Just a couple quick questions for you. The soccer program that y'all are starting up, offering with particular emphasis on futsal, do y'all have sites piloted or idea for pilot locations yet, or is?
Yeah, we do have sites selected. However, I don't have that with me today, but I'll be sure to email that to you after the meeting.
And it's the vision that you'll be more sites across the city as we grow or get closer to the World Cup, or what's the scale like for?
Yeah, so the goal is to start with an introductory futsal program this year and then look to go to a kind of a larger program where it's beyond futsal. So you're playing more on the 7v7, 9v9, 11v11.
Okay, and I think it's awesome that we, the city of Atlanta, is doing this. I know myself and Councilman Winston shared earlier this year that we both had our daughters in the TOTS basketball program earlier this year, and we tried to continue that sports sort of programming for the kiddo, put her in a soccer program that wasn't City of Atlanta, wasn't thrilled about it, didn't like it, and missed her coaches from the DPR program so much that we're like, okay, we want to get her back into the City of Atlanta's fold. And so, yeah, I'm not giving up on soccer yet, but the fact that we're leaning hard into a city-run program, I'm excited about, and I know a lot of families across the city are excited about.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
And then just a question. I know we talked about it last week, but if you could just refresh my memory, the timeline for James Orange Park. I know the Friends of James Orange Park is meeting this evening. I won't be at that meeting this evening, but I want to make sure that I'm just up to date on the most recent kind of everything with regards to it. I know you and I are going to get some time, but what's the timeline on the potential closure that you can share that I can?
Yeah, no, definitely. So Reverend James Orange, what we're going to be doing is it's a complete tear down and renovation and a rebuild of the Reverend James Orange Recreation Center at Oakland City Park. And we have $7.1 million. And so working with the community to identify the specific elements of that. But typically what we would envision in this space would be a multi-purpose room, a senior space, a teen space, a computer room, a large gathering area for people to interact and have a great time, likely an elevator, given that it will likely be 2 stories in order to meet all the needs. We anticipate the demolition of that happening sometime in spring of 2025. And then shortly thereafter, we're working really hard because originally the intent was to tear the building down and then have a short leg between the time in which the building was torn down and the time in which construction started. And so we're really working hard with our general contracting team and our design team to shorten that window, because we know it's unacceptable to have a building torn down and then have there be leg with a kind of between the construction and the demo period. So that's why we pushed demo out to spring of 2025 to give us more time to really structure that construction sequencing to get the best product.
Thank you. Chair, yo.
Thank you. Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Hey, JC.
Hello, Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Hey, Commissioner. Thank you so much for the presentation. And before even diving in, I just want to congratulate you on and thank you for how you've run the department, the increases, the catch up in services. And I mean, it's a miracle that we're caught up on stump removal and things, a day I thought I would never see. So
Well, I didn't say stump removal. We're caught up on permitting of arborists.
We're catching up on stump removal.
We're catching up on stump removal.
We're like a summer away.
Yes.
So, I mean, but I understand the necessity of being very intentional with our words. And so thank you for that. And mine were some basic questions. I was hoping that we've been having some issues with competing tennis and pickleballers. You know, it's like a modern day West Side Story. So they're warring off on these courts. I was actually hoping we sent somebody on your team something about our Lake Claire court and a couple others. Is there any way that we could display more signage about what our current rules and regulations are? Because I think that will help clear up some of the misconceptions that we're having around how to reserve, what the rules are. A lot of the folks in the pickleball community don't seem to know that we've actually adopted a set of rules, even though I know that was done with the Pickleball League assisting. So that was one. And if we could also do the same thing about the park ranger program. We've had, obviously, a lot of us are dealing with incidents of unleashed dogs and near attacks and other things in open spaces. And a lot of folks don't know that we had the park ranger program. Of course, Major Singh has been fantastic. But if there is a way that we can actually outline that people can call 911 and directly, like how that works, just so that we are more efficiently getting information out there, I think that would be a really big help as well.
Yeah, so firstly on the pickleball, we are familiar with the Lake Claire example, and I think one of the discrepancies there is that there is a pickleball meetup group where people can go online, register that they are a pickleball player, and then they identify spots where they may hook up to play pickleball. And unfortunately, that site is confusing to some people because they see that as being a reservation, but it's not a reservation. The site plainly, clearly states this is not a reservation for a pickleball. However, then we have people that show up, flash a piece of paper, say it's a permit, the other people leave, or the other people will flash a permit, say, no, I have an iParks permit, which is the correct permit for that site. And that's the team, that's the group of people that should be out there, is the team with the iParks permit. So we are working to overcome that communication gap between our iParks, which is our official permit registration software. You can go to iParks, IPARCS, and you can register, sign up for Atlanta. You can look up tennis courts and pickleball courts, and you can reserve those online. So that's the only way that you can reserve a City of Atlanta tennis or pickleball court. Secondarily, to your concern about kind of dogs and off leash, everybody should be calling 311 as soon as possible. If you see a dog off leash, they can get in contact with our park ranger and we can send somebody out. If there's chronic issues with dogs off leash, please send that to my office and we'll get our ranger to patrol those areas at certain times of day. I would imagine that typically it's kind of that 4 to 6 hour after people get home from work, they probably need to take their dog out for a run. So we can be better about identifying those specific sites and targeting those. We have been dealing with a situation out at Mary Shy Scott Park, where we had several dogs off leash, and during that gap with the Atlanta Fulton County Animal Shelter or Animal Service, we were working at alternative means, but we have been able to capture 3 of the dogs out at Mary Shy Scott. They were running off leash, and 2 of the dogs have since left. But we are being as proactive as we can. But if there are trouble sites that you or anybody knows, please call 311 or send those to my office. And then if anybody sees an active dog bite or active situation happening, please call 911. And if you see anything illegal happening in our parks, do not hesitate, call 911. That is your first number of response. But if it's more of a non-emergency, 311 is always the best number. So, thank you.
Really appreciate. Oh, and really quickly also, I just also wanted to commend the DPR team on, I mean, every single, on all of the parks. East Lake, East Atlanta, Brownwood Park, Lane Carson at Reynoldstown, everything that we're doing right now with, the improvements at Cohen, every single park. And it has been wonderful to work with the team on it. And I'm excited for our next round of opportunities that are opening up for people to apply for more dollars to go directly towards our green spaces in the district. And thank you for also helping us procure new green space. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you to the law department and procurement for helping make that happen too.
And thank you, Law. Thanks, Amber Robinson.
So wanted to jump in with a few questions. One, just want to just commend the team on doing a great job with the pool opening, across the city. Just heard nothing but rave reviews about the condition of the pools, the way they look. I know the ones in my district have new chairs, new paint, so they look great. Just want to know if you could also provide some clarity around the lifeguard ratio number. I've gotten a few questions about pools closing or not admitting more people once they hit a certain threshold of people that enter the pools based on the number of lifeguards. So just if you could provide kind of an update on that.
I don't have that committed to memory, unfortunately, but I will get back with you and we can send out just maybe something through our social media. Would that be helpful? Or we can send you we'll send you a specific message, but then that way you can share it with people who are asking the question. But we'll just send out a reminder as to, hey, we recognize pools have been busy. Here's how the queuing works, just so you can be prepared when you go to a pool. I know Grant
feel
Park
free to share through your social channels, but I just think it's something that needs clarity for our constituents. Just understand that. And then just
real quick, I know Grant Park and John A. White oftentimes are the ones that experience this the most. And so we encourage people to go to Candler Park Pool, just given that it's right up the street from Grant Park. And at John A. White, you have Anderson Pool, which is fairly close. You also have CT Martin, which is close by. So there's many pools that kind of around there that's available, and we always try to provide an alternative option, but some people just want to go to that pool too.
Okay, and maybe even just providing some peak times.
Yes.
That people know that, hey, some of these pools are full during these times based on that. And then just one quick story. So I'm actually on the city's pension investment board, and so there's a National Securities Professionals Conference that is in town right now. And last night, I was with some Wall Street investment bankers who were all from out of town, and they all booked tea times at John A. White.
Great.
And said that they had an amazing time there. And it just, to me, it was just thought about how full circle we've come with our golf program. That here we have investment bankers coming in from out of town, not going to some large country club, but they were actually booking tea times at John A. White, one of our newly renovated golf courses. And so I think that's just a testament to the amount of resources that we're putting into our city golf courses is great. I also, too, having Browns Mill in my district that I share with District 12, Councilmember Lewis, I do see a lot of out-of-state tags at these golf courses now, which is great. But I'm also wondering, are they taking some of those tee times away from our constituents, some of the City of Atlanta citizens? And just wondering, I know we've got the 4Pass, which is discount to City of Atlanta residents if they pay for it. But are we prioritizing tee times for City of Atlanta residents?
Yeah, currently there's no formal way in which we prioritize tee times. Right now we work with Golf Now, and people go online, typically reserve their tee time ahead of time. The great thing about Golf Now, it is dynamic pricing. So you'll see in real time, what the price will be. And so it encourages you to play in off-peak hours, which can be a discount to our residents. We do offer a resident discount or a resident fee versus a non-resident fee. And so that's the way that we support resident and non-resident use. Also, we have a junior golf fee as well as a senior golf fee. So we separate it into over 6 different categories of fee. And as you mentioned, we have the 4Pass and an annual pass that people can purchase to use at our golf courses. But beyond that, there isn't a way that we prioritize tee times over one group of people or another. The tee times are available for everybody's access, but pricing sometimes dictates availability and opportunity.
Okay, well, just maybe an opportunity as demand continues to grow for us to be able to look at that.
But keep in mind our golf fees are some of the lowest in the region, and one of the things that we can do to reinvest in our golf courses is looking at raising our fees slightly in order to, one, keep pace with cost, and two, be able to reinvest those fees to continue to have high quality golf courses. So that's something that we're looking at in this fiscal year.
And then just lastly, just want to give a huge shout out to the maintenance teams. I see them out, especially now with, grass is growing more. They're having to do a lot more maintenance, and they're just doing a great job. Specifically, I see the Southeast team a lot at the parks in my district, and so just want to thank them for their hard work and dedication to the city.
Thank you.
I'll kick it back to Councilmember Bakhtiari, then we'll go to Councilmember Boone.
Sorry, I forgot. There was a couple questions I had actually wanted to ask. I was actually going to ask about additional senior programming for some of our spaces. What is the best way to work with you all about getting, I'm very lucky to have the natatorium in my district with the MLK natatorium, and that's fantastic. But I have had more and more seniors coming up to me as these park improvements are happening, which makes me very happy. They're asking about what can we do to get more programming. And I'm getting that question a lot for Reynoldstown. I'm getting the question a lot in East Atlanta. I'm getting the question a lot in a couple different spaces. And so I wanted to find out how best to work with Parks and Rec to either answer those inquiries or provide additional services to those areas, or find out how to work with Parks and Recs to get additional services there.
Yeah, last year with the millage increase, we had $1 million additionally allocated to recreation programming. Some of that going to teens, some of that going to seniors, to make sure that we could provide more services. So we have now all Camp Best Friends and out of school time sites have a contractor or an enrichment activity. We increased our senior contracts with different vendors for fitness programs, as well as water fitness classes. And so we are adding more programs. If there's specific programs that aren't hitting the need, please let us know. We'd be happy to work with any of the offices represented on the dais today to talk about and others, not just the ones that are present, but all offices, to identify what specifically you need at sites. And so we are going through that process now. And one of the things that working with the mayor on is establishing a recreation foundation that can help pull some activities forward as well, looking at evidence-based programs for seniors like Walk with Ease, Sit and Be Fit, et cetera, Silver Sneakers type programs. So we're working with our team to begin certification in those classes and activities as part of our ongoing training of the team. So then we have certified staff to teach these activities, not just relying on contractors as well. But that'll be taking place over the next year as we work to expand programming in fiscal year 25.
Wonderful.
But I think if there's specific needs that you or any other council member have within your specific district that you're hearing about, just let my office know and we'll work on that.
Is there a list where we can find out what services are being fully offered so that we aren't creating additional work for you?
Yep.
That would be wonderful. And then finally was, the last question I had was, can there be a tutorial on the Happy Helpings meal tracker app? Because that's incredible.
I think that's for the existing, that's for the sites, so they report the meals on the sites. It's not for like a parent or a caregiver to identify where sites are. So the USDA, they have an app that you can use if you go, I think it's like summermeals.org or .gov. They have a listing of all the different summer meal sites, and our sites are on there.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Boone.
Commissioner, will you all meet with your team and look at those free swim hours of the natatorium again? The community, specifically NPUI, would like to see a couple of free swim hours on Saturdays when the parents can bring the children. Presently, we don't have any free swim hours during the weekend. So if you all will look at your team and try to squeeze out a couple of hours for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, we appreciate your quarterly update.
Thank you.
So that takes us to the legislative section of our agenda, which takes us to the consent agenda ordinance for first reading.
Item number 1 is 24-01328, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute license agreements with certain selected kiosk operators for the operation of City of Atlanta-owned kiosks located in the city's right-of-way for a period of 2 years, with one option to renew for 1 additional year at the discretion of the city, with the selected kiosk operators to pay rent to the city in the amount of $250.00 per kiosk per month, to authorize all generated revenue to be deposited into the account listed herein, to waive the requirements of the Procurement and Real Estate Code, Chapter 2, Article 10 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, to the extent of any conflict with this ordinance and for other purposes. takes us to section H, ordinances for second reading, and item number 2, 24-0-1293, an ordinance by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into memoranda of agreement with East Atlanta Business Association, Little Five Points Business Association, West End Merchants Coalition, Virginia Highlands District Association, and Sweet Auburn Works to support and encourage the participation in the Atlanta Main Street program for the purpose of providing funding in an amount not to exceed $12,000.00 to each of those organizations, and to authorize the chief financial officer or his designee to transfer funds to the East Atlanta Business Association, Little Five Points Business Association, and the others in an amount not to exceed $12,000.00 to be paid from the fund, department, organization, and account numbers listed herein and for other purposes. Members, there's an amendment in your package that will attach Exhibit A, which is the template for the agreement.
I'll make a motion to amend. Second by Dozier. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. It's 5 yeas and 0 nays.
I'll make a motion to approve as amended. Second. And second by Councilmember Norwood. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Would the committee like to take number 3 and the companion piece, number 42, together?
Yes, please proceed.
Item number 3 is 24-0-1296, an ordinance by Councilmember Mary Norwood authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to enter into an amended and restated quitclaim deed subject to real covenant and reservation of easements with the Georgia Building Authority, a public corporation and an instrumentality of the state of Georgia, with respect to certain property located in land lot 145 of the 17th District Georgia tax parcel listed here, and in lot 145 of the 17th District tax parcel listed here, collectively the properties, to revise and expand the permitted uses of the properties and for other purposes. And item number 42 is 24-0-1277, an ordinance by Councilmember Mary Norwood authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to enter into a first amendment to ground lease between the city and the Georgia Building Authority to extend the term of such ground lease for a period of 20 years through December 31st, 2069, and for other purposes.
Councilmember Norwood.
Move approval.
That's motion to approve by Councilmember Norwood, second by Dozier. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. Would all members please vote? The vote is closed. That's 5 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 4 is 24-0-1298, an ordinance by Councilmember Howard Shook waiving the competitive procurement provisions contained in Chapter 2, Article 10, Subdivision 2, Section 2-1547, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City Code of Ordinances on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to execute a lease agreement with the Blue Huron Nature Preserve, Inc. for the purpose of enhancing and maintaining the Blue Huron Nature Preserve property and for other purposes.
Thank you. Commissioner Cutler.
Yes, this is a continuation of the lease agreement with Blue Heron Nature Preserve. They are a nonprofit 501c3 operating out the Blue Heron Nature Preserve and building on our behalf. They have subleases with additional groups with the Amphibian Foundation and a nature-based outdoor school. They do a great job providing art-based and nature-based education at the site. If you haven't checked it out, it's right off of Roswell, right across from Pike's Nursery. It's a great spot right there along Little Nancy Creek. So thank you.
Right. Got a motion to approve by Norwood, second by Dozier. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 5 is 24-0-1299, an ordinance by Councilmember Michael Julian Bond to ratify Mayor Andre Dickens' May 2024 executive order imposing a moratorium on the acceptance of any new rezoning applications, building permit applications, land disturbance permit applications, special use permit applications, special administrative permit applications, subdivision applications, replatting applications, or lot consolidation applications for parcels within the area designated herein and for other purposes.
Is Commissioner Prince here to speak to this one?
Yes, sir. This is for Atlanta Medical Center, the Boulevard Small Area Plan.
Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Hey, Commissioner. And just to state, y'all have been doing a study, have come up with some options. How long is this moratorium? How long will it be for?
Just 120 days. There are 4 neighborhood associations in the Old Fourth Ward. They're combining, but aren't fully combined yet. And before we could, there's a lot of scheduling.
No,
Let's
I
just
understand.
put it that way.
To give context to my colleagues, because this sits in my district, this is something I am in support of. They have been initially, when this was done, planning was getting together. There is a fear that there's a fear by some that if we don't end the moratorium, that it will not be developed and that we'll have another civic center situation on our hands. I do not believe this to be the case. Planning has done a really good job of doing the study. This is whatever we do here. I mean, Wellstar has repeatedly closed down hospital locations, with the most recent announcement of East Point. Again, not to get off on a tangent, but maybe they should look into getting into another form of business. But that being said, the fact that y'all have taken the time to do this well, to ensure a wellness component can be included, to ensure that we're speaking with the surrounding communities. And to your point, yes, just recently, the 4 different groups around Old Fourth Ward have decided to combine and become one neighborhood group. It has been a lot, and I know that you need to properly brief them. That opportunity has not been given yet. So all that stated, I move to approve.
So we got a motion to approve, and I just want to just state, council can vote at any moment to end the moratorium related to a zoning on ordinance matter, correct?
The previous moratorium has expired. It's currently under an executive order from the mayor, and y'all would be ratifying that and going ahead and pushing it out the 120 days.
Okay, well, as I'm reading the legislation, effectively, council can end it at any moment, even if we extend it. So I'm just making that known.
I see what you're
public.
saying. So, yes, when the planning document is completed, if it's before the moratorium ends, we could end it early, yeah.
Okay, all right, so we got a motion to approve by Bakhtiari. I'll second. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. And the vote is closed. It's 5 yeas and 0 nays. Item number 6 is 24-01301. It's an ordinance by council members Matt Westmoreland, Byron D. Amos, Antonio Lewis, Andrea L. Boone, Alex Wan, Howard Shook, Jason Dozier, Jason Winston, Liliana Bakhtiari, Marcy Collier Overstreet, Mary Norwood, and Michael Julian Bond, authorizing the chief financial officer to transfer up to $5 million and 0 cents to the Atlanta Development Authority, DBA Invest Atlanta, in order to fund the City of Atlanta Recovery Fund pursuant to that intergovernmental agreement for economic development services between the City of Atlanta and Invest Atlanta for the public purpose of supporting small businesses that were adversely impacted during the disruption in water service, to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to make any budget amendments, operating transfers, or other actions necessary to enable the transfer of said funds to Invest Atlanta and for other purposes. You each have a substitute in front of you that doesn't change the caption, but it inserts needed account string information in section 1.
Thank you, Dr. Eloisa Clementich.
Yes, thank you very much for having me. I'd like to just start off by thanking each of the council members and Councilmember Westmoreland for introducing this and the mayor for his support. So what we are trying to do is really create grants eligible to small businesses to support communities with trade, industry, and commerce. We respect that this is a very unique situation, and that the city has declared a state of emergency, and so these grants are to specifically help businesses recover from the disruption of the water service. So what Invest Atlanta has done is we started out by creating a data analysis of what was going on in these specific areas. In addition to that, we also did an aggressive outreach campaign to different businesses to really understand what the impact. In terms of our data analysis, consisted of multiple stages, beginning with geographic analysis of the city business license to understand how these businesses were in the impacted areas. We then looked at industries in particular and then did a statistical analysis to really understand holistically what was happening in terms of the data. But we recognize that data is only one side of the story. So then we went out specifically to businesses. We held a mixer at Pittsburgh Yards, over 100 businesses. Mayor attended, and we were able to hear exactly what the impacts were. We did business consultations with the mayor and the team, Invest Atlanta team, where we went out, we sat with businesses, we ate dinner, we had lunch. We really had a deep conversation so that we could understand all aspects. And then we consulted with several organizations because we want to ensure that we didn't miss, so that we knew there was a spectrum of businesses that were impacted. So from Our Village United, the Beltline, Central Atlanta Progress, Metro Atlanta Chamber, Midtown Alliance to 100 Black Men, to really understand what would be the best program that we could create, not only on the data side, but one that would really understand and address the need of the small businesses. So where we are today and what we'd like to propose is really a two-step process, because in all of those conversations, what was clear to us was speed. At least we would like to have something that's fast and efficient, where we can get the funds out to the small businesses as quickly as possible. So what I'd like to suggest is a two-step process. The first process is that we would prioritize the businesses. First, we're going to look at the impact areas. Then we're going to prioritize certain NAICS code. Would be step one. That would give us the prioritized list. And in step two, we would then break down the businesses by revenue size, and then the number of days either closed and or impacted. I'm going to break that down just a little bit more. So in the broader Boyle advisory that came out on May 31st, we did an analysis. We overlaid the map with the number of businesses. We know that there are approximately 6,960 businesses within that broader map dated May 31st. We then layered the smaller map that came out on June 3rd and know that there were 3,700 registered businesses in that smaller map. So what we thought is we would prioritize those within the smaller map because they had a Boyle advisory as much longer time, and then we would hit to the broader map, which was the May 31st date of 6,960 businesses. The second step we would do is then look at the NAICS code. The NAICS code is the North American Integrated Classification System. All it is a way that businesses could break down what is the business type. In our conversations with all of these associations and with the businesses themselves, we recognize that the ones that were mostly impacted were restaurants, daycare centers, beauty salons. They needed water to be able to conduct their business. We know everybody was impacted, so I'm not saying that there weren't, everybody was, but we recognize that people worked in offices. Oftentimes what they did is they continue to work, but they work from home. So the impact wasn't as large. This was really trying to get to those small businesses with the largest impact. We broke it down and then looked at specifically how many businesses fall within that larger map area, the 6,960 were in, for example, small businesses in restaurants, and we knew that that NAICS code was somewhere around 747. So we knew now we were going to look at not only those impacted, how long they're impacted, but then what specific breakdown in businesses were we going to prioritize. Then what we like to do in that second step is look at the criteria of how much. And again, what we'd like to recommend is we did a statistical analysis to look at the breakdown of the revenue of businesses, and we broke them down in three categories. One was less than 500,000, between 500,000 and $1 million, and then above $1 million would be the three breakdown in levels. And then we said, okay, this was your revenue. And then what we try to do, and it was interesting of your first public comment, how we were really trying to understand those businesses that were impacted longer. So what we said is if you, for example, are a business, a small business with revenues of less than 500,000, and you were either closed and or impacted from zero or point, several hours, so 1 day to 3 days, you would receive a grant from Invest Atlanta and from the city of $2,000. And then if you were the same business and you were impacted or closed for more than 3 days, you would get $6,000. We then pressured that amount with businesses, and we had several conversations with small businesses, and what they told us was that their loss per day was anywhere between $1,000 to $2,000 per day. So then we thought, okay, now again, this is not everyone, and we're really trying to take a small sample, but we thought that this $2,000 to $6,000 is going to cover maybe not every loss within the small business, but really have a good high percentage to really help support them as they were impacted by this situation. So what we decided to do is then the last thing was we had received an allocation from the city council for about $5 million. We said in the best case scenario, let's pressure test this and say if every business was impacted and every business will submit an application, what would that cost be? That cost would be about, in our speculation, again, going by the Boyle advisory and the larger map in terms of closed and or impacted dates of 3 days, would be about $9 million. That would be the cost. But what we recognized is that not 100% of those businesses in this area would be applying. Now, why wouldn't they apply? They wouldn't apply perhaps because they have insurance that would cover it. Maybe the impact wasn't as large as we suspected. Maybe they figured out. So, and the last thing is we looked at the CARES Act dollars. If you recall, we received the American Rescue Plan dollars and the CARES Act dollars during COVID. Under COVID, about 15% of our eligible businesses actually submitted applications. So for this reason, we then estimate, okay, let's double that because we're going to do great outreach. Everybody's going to hear about this. It's getting a lot of attention. We suspected that maybe 40% of the businesses that are eligible would apply. If that is the case, then we suspect that we would land somewhere around $4.6 million. So it's right in that $5 million range that you provided to Invest Atlanta. We ultimately won't know until we get the applications in, but we feel pretty confident that statistically we will be able to address many businesses, probably upwards of about 700 businesses with this fund. Again, it will depend on exactly how much and where they fall in. So the last thing I want to just highlight for those that are watching, what can businesses do today while they get ready, as the application is still not available because we're waiting for council to approve, go through their final process, excuse me. First, businesses today, we're going to ask them to have active business licenses, ensure that they have their articles of incorporation, their operating agreement or their corporate bylaws, Secretary of State registration, point of sale. So what we want to see, this point of sale report is something businesses do all the time. That's the report they have to send to the state. We want the point of sale report the weekend prior and then the point of sale report during the impacted week so that we can see that there is a decrease and there has been an impact. An impact statement, we want them to start preparing their impact. How were they impacted? There could be things that we are not unaware of. A save affidavit and a copy of their insurance policy. If you notice, many of these things are things that they have already. We're not trying to make this onerous. We want the process to be easy as possible, but want to understand that we have the information that we needed. We will be asking them to have a compliance report. In a year, we're going to ask them, please respond back. Let us know how you're doing. Have you been able to maintain your employees? And hopefully you've continued to grow in this city. The expenses that will be ineligible, we're asking businesses that any cost that they submit and they get covered, they cannot also ask for an insurance claim. So we want to ensure that they're not doing that. But what we also did is we reached out to our insurance broker because we wanted to understand what disruption insurance is, or in the industry they call it business income and extra expense coverage. Now, I'm not sure every business what their insurance plan says, but the average when you buy business disruption insurance, we know that it does not kick in until 72 hours. So until they've gone into a disruption that's longer than 3 days, they can't even get access to their disruption insurance. So we know that a lot of small businesses may have that in their insurance policy, but really are not going to access it because it's not worth it. One, in terms of their insurance rates and their deductible, but also coverage doesn't begin for 72 hours. So those are some things that we've continued to look at. There are some businesses that will not be able to be eligible for this. I want to make sure that I highlight nonprofit organizations without a for-profit activity. This is really meant to be targeted at small businesses. Businesses that derive part or annual of their gross income from gambling, for example, won't be eligible. Home-based businesses. Why? Because you still be able to incur your business at home. And businesses in the following industries: pawn shops, liquor stores, nightclubs, etc. So we'll have the complete list online for businesses to check out. So I want to just highlight, what are we going to do to get the word out? We're going to work with our business trade associations. We're going to do business visits. We're going to do webinars. We're going to do in-person emails. We're going to do social media. That's where we hear the biggest focus is on finding information is social media. And for my family-owned mom and pops who maybe aren't social oriented, we're still going to send out an old school postcard so that everybody knows that this information is available to them, or this opportunity is available to them. So what to expect in the future, and give you a sense of timeline. The city council vote, your vote will happen on June 17th. So on June 17th, assuming that the council approves this, we will hold our first webinar. We'll have information on our website to join to help prepare businesses. Then the Invest Atlanta boards votes on the 20th. Applications will open up on June 24th. They'll be open for 2 weeks, and they will close July 8th at 5 p.m. And our goal is to start to notify businesses the week of July 29th. So we're working really, really fast to get these funds out to businesses as soon as possible. We have 2 leads in particular, so I want to specifically thank Jeff Morris and Kelsey Maynor, who are also here, for all their work in moving this forward, and the entire team. When you sent these funds to us, we got the entire team mobilized to talk to businesses, to talk to associations. We were really trying to pressurize this program to ensure that it was responding to the needs of businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. And just want to thank you and your team for being very thoughtful and thorough and coming up with this detailed plan on how to help small businesses in the city. I met with small businesses in my district. They were hurting by the activities that happened last week. And so this was something, you know, thanks to Councilmember Westmoreland and my colleagues for supporting this legislation so that we could come back and help these small businesses. So I'm going to open up for questions. I'll start with Councilmember Bakhtiari.
Hey, Dr. K.
Hey.
First, I just want to say thank you because, you know, this started when Friday occurred, whatever day the Mad Max drama began of losing water. That day we were actually, many of us had gotten together. I had talked to Councilmember Westmoreland. We were sitting and immediately started getting calls from small businesses, and we were driving through my district, and I dropped him off to walk the Beltline. He said, and we talked, and right before that moment, we said we need to do a small business loan. And I think it was 10 o'clock at night. He got out to walk and think and called you, and you answered, and y'all began working on it the first night of the water crisis. So I want to name that, and I want to thank you for loving us enough to always make yourself available. And just the dedication to your work, I'm deeply appreciative, because this is not a 9-to-5 job. Crises can happen at any time. So very grateful to you and your team. And also, I just wanted to ask if Jeff and Kelsey could raise their hands and just thank you both. And also apologize to you preemptively for all the emails you will be getting from my district. So just to let you know, and I went ahead and reached out. Some of us are lucky enough to have small business associations in parts of our district, others do not. But I went ahead and reached out to my business associations, and I had them already start compiling their lists so I could have a list of the folks that I knew were impacted to send over to you. I'm sure we can all agree that comms was not our strong suit as a city during this crisis. To avoid that from continuing and to ensure that we have streamlined messaging. I mean, this in terms of the fact points that we need is great, and I will be taking this to build a one-pager from it. If y'all could assist by creating a consolidated one-pager without edits that can be shared across all platforms, the same message for all council members, so we're not getting any more misinformation or confusion out there. I will be putting together the facts of this to post to all my neighborhood pages by tomorrow morning, including the timeline, which is super helpful, so thank you, because right now I think we're in a hyper-vigilant state where people want more information and to be walked through, not less. At least in my district, I know that to be the case. I do want to say that my district was right in the heart of the water outage. It's okay, I wasn't going to sleep. Right in the heart of the water outage for the length of the boil advisory. To let you know, many of my businesses, I see the folks that were listed, the groups that were listed that were spoken with by the mayor. That's fantastic, and I know that you did your due diligence to really dive into the small businesses. I can tell you that a lot of my businesses are not members of any of the groups that are listed. So that's like one thing I want to name, so I appreciate you going and actually talking. I'm hoping that there is a directory, whether it's through the Main Street program or something, of every small business association that is located within the city. If it hasn't been done yet, I hope we can reach out to them and ask them. I reached out to all my business associations. I had them send out a blast email and had each of the businesses go ahead and write back with their impacts. That being stated, a lot of my businesses reported, I think every single small business I talked to reported losses of, or like some were below 20,000, a lot were 20,000 and higher because of the length of the period for my district. So I want to name that. I'm going to do everything I can to get this information out there. You mentioned more money, 9 million?
If every business applied.
Yes.
At this case, I'm not sure every business will apply, so we'll have to see. But I suspect we'll be somewhere around 40%.
Yes, and I would expect that you know that because Invest has been doing small business outreach for a long time now. So I understand that y'all have this down, you've got it down pat. And so, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, and thanks to this council as well, we have great relationship Jeff does with all the business associations in the city. So we're going to leverage them as well. We'll have a special webinar just for the business associations so they can ask questions so that then they can answer questions for their members. So really, anybody who wants to, we're going to meet with as many people as possible. We want to make sure that people understand how to fill out the application.
I really appreciate that. And if I can ask also, I would love to extend an invite to you all to attend, at least with the dates of our upcoming business association meetings, if somebody wants to attend.
We'll be there.
Thank you. I will make sure that those dates get sent to you today. And in addition, I want to ask if it's okay to include in all my updates the 2 points of contact listed. May I make those emails public on these posts?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to obviously ask before I sacrificed your freedom. Do you want to come
Jeff, yeah, you got to come up to the podium. So Jeff heads up our technical assistance with our association. So Jeff Morris.
Thank you, Council. We are also creating a hotline number and a main email number because those emails are to Kelsey and I, but anybody can email us or the number that we're going to create.
Fantastic. Do you know when you will have that information?
Probably by the end of today.
End of the day. Okay, so I'm going to...
I'll put it in the one pager that we're going to send out to you. I'm going to get my marketing team on it right away.
Thank you. I really appreciate it because I can't tell you what this means because I cannot iterate enough Atlanta's dependency on its small businesses. And there is an immense fear that has been expressed by a majority of my small business. Most of our small businesses, they're living, most of us are living paycheck to paycheck. I'm not sure about my colleagues, I am. But I'm like, a lot of us are living paycheck to paycheck. And for small businesses, it's the same. One weekend can put them under. We can't predict acts of God. But the recovery period and what we do there is important. And Atlanta has a higher percentage than the national percentage of communities that lean on their small businesses. So it is the backbone of everything, and they're what makes us unique. They're what drives tourism here and everything else. So I'm deeply, deeply grateful to you all, and I will do everything I can to get this information out, even if it means having to go door to door to my small businesses myself, because they took a beating this last week. So I'm very grateful to you all for working with.
And thank you for that, Councilmember. That's why speed is so important. That's why we've set it up in a way that we're going to try to go as quickly as possible. Mayor made that very, very clear.
And the last piece I said, and I'll give it to them, the big fear that is had, and it was mentioned today by one of the public commenters, and I know that this is not the case, but to whatever degree we continue to get this message out, there is a fear by the small business community that these resources will be eaten up by the Fortune 500 companies and by the larger companies. Yes, and I know that's not the case, but to whatever degree we can continue to just reiterate that. You want to write it in the sky with a plane or get on some blowhorns and just drive down the streets, whatever it takes, but there is a fear. And that will be the case. So to whatever degree we can get ahead of that and just state, by all means, that is not going to be the case, and this is what qualifies a small business, that would be also very helpful.
I'll take care of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I did want to just kind of go over the ineligibility of the insurance claims. I know I did meet with a couple of small businesses, and they said that they were pretty much sure that, from just early indications and speaking with their insurers, that this was not going to be covered in terms of being able to get, reimbursement for the incidents that happened because of the water main break. Just we're hearing that insurance doesn't typically cover infrastructure, disasters throughout the city, in municipalities throughout, the United States. So just wanted to know if you've gotten some early feedback on that.
Yeah, what we're hearing is that many businesses were not going to put a business disruption because of the two things that I mentioned. One, the requirement for greater than 72 hours, and two, they were concerned about their deductible and rates going up. And so we are very clear on that. And all we've said is you can have insurance that does not disqualify you, but you can't, if you're going to apply for your insurance to cover, then you can also come to this program. But as long as you don't, then you're fine to come and ensure that you're not submitting both to both Invest Atlanta and to your insurance claim, is what we're saying.
And how do you think your team will be able to verify whether or not someone has?
Since we're going to go by speed, we've talked about that we're really going to just do an affidavit. You're going to have to tell us that this is something you're not going to do, because most are not going to be able to file the claim and hear back by the insurance by as fast as my dates are. So we're going to put an affidavit and say, I swear that I'm not going to do this.
And in perfect timing, we have been joined by the Honorable Matt Westmoreland. So I'm going to pass it over to him.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councilmember Bakhtiari, for filibustering as I. Indeed. Thank you, Dr. Clementage. You and your team have done an incredible amount of work in a very short period of time on this. My question is probably more appropriate for FEC tomorrow than CDHS, but I'm going to ask it 24 hours early and with no agenda. I heard the back and forth about 40%, 5 million versus 9 million. And I'm not even sure where I land on this, but I'm just going to say it out loud. It seems like there might be an option to increase this amount of money in the event that we have more than 40% participation. And if we don't, you can send it back. So I'm not going to amend the paper here, just something for us to think about over the next 24 hours or so.
And once I get the applications in, I'll be able to tell you this is exactly where we're at, and we can tell you pretty quickly where we're landing. So you'll have a good sense.
Yeah, and the only reason I would suggest that is that we'll be on recess and would be unable to send you over any more money for a while. So something for the Finance Committee to think about tomorrow. If you don't have a motion, I'll offer you one. If you do, I'm happy to vote yes. Motion to approve on substitute.
The substitute still needs to be approved by the committee.
I withdraw my motion.
So it's for your consideration. Would someone like to move the substitute?
On motion to move as substituted.
Bakhtiari and
I'll bring forth the substitution.
Vote is open. Would all members please vote? The vote is closed. 6 yeas and 0 nays.
Dr. Clementage, also just real quick, if you could, one ask is if you could also give us just maybe some additional 100 postcards for me, just so I can make sure to hand them out as well to folks I know that are not going to open their mail. That would be, if that's possible, and I'm happy to pick them up.
What I'll do is I'll drop off to all the council districts that are in the area.
All right, so it sounds like we had an original motion by Councilmember Westmoreland. And it was seconded by Councilmember Dozier. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 6 yeas and 0 nays. Section I is resolutions. Number 7 is 24R 3692. There is a substitute in your packet that will change the caption to this legislation.
Got a motion to bring forth the substitute by Councilmember Dozier. I'll second. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. Would all members please vote? vote is closed. It's 5 yeas, 0 nays. The caption reads 24R 3692, a substitute resolution by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee to exercise the first renewal option for SPS 122-0226, Acela Land Management Remote Application Hosting and Maintenance with Acela Inc. on behalf of the Department of City Planning for a term of 1 year effective from August 2025, August 25th, 2024 through August 24th, 2025 in an amount not to exceed $584,311.68, and to execute the First Amendment to the agreement to add the Department of Finance as an authorized user to the agreement. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account number listed herein and for other purposes.
Mr. Pace, how you doing?
Good afternoon, Chair and Board. Gregory Pace, Director, Office of Buildings within the Department of City Planning. This is a renewal to our contract for the Acela database, our land base for permitting and land use software. This is the first renewal. We're, of course, seeking an RTF for looking for other solutions as well to be more of a collaborative enterprise solution over time. But currently, this contract is about to expire, and we want to get ahead of it and make sure we get the renewal.
I'll move approval, but I did see that we all got an email about an upgrade or an update to Acela. Maybe it was from the mobile app. I don't know if you can speak to any of that.
Not quite. No,
Okay.
There's always Acela is continuing to do some upgrades and some upgrades to their system. I know that the mobile app was kind of disabled at one point in time, and so it's probably being revamped and refined. I'm not familiar with it yet. I don't know the fine tunes that they've made, but hopefully it's going to be beneficial mostly for our inspectors. They really, really need that.
All right, thank you. Do you have a second? Second. Second by Dozier. If you can please open the vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. It's 5 yeas and 0 nays. And then number 8 is 24R 3697, a resolution by Community Development and Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Atlanta Department of Labor and Employment Services, aka WorkSource Atlanta, to exercise an option to renew the contractual agreement for the contract listed here with Arbor E&T LLC, doing business as Ekis Workforce Solutions for a term of 1 year in an amount not to exceed $750,000.00 for purposes of providing workforce service delivery for Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act adult dislocated worker programs and services. To authorize the Chief Financial Officer to make payments to the administrative memorandum submitted in accordance with 23-0-1138. All contracted work shall be charged to and paid from the account numbers determined by the Chief Financial Officer and for other purposes.
Commissioner Flanagan.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair Winston. Good afternoon, members of the committee. This is our standard renewal for our contracted adult and dislocated worker services that take place at 818 Pollard. These cover services like reimbursement for on-the-job training or tuition subsidies for eligible participants. This will be the fourth year of a 4-year contract, so next year may look a little different, but this is just your standard renewal option.
I'll move approval. Second by Dozier. If you could please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays. Section J is dual referred items. There are 2 that are ready, and they can be taken as a block if the committee would like to do that.
Please proceed.
Item number 9 is 24R 3670, a resolution by council members Jason H. Winston and Dustin Hillis authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to apply for and accept a U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Environmental and Climate Justice Community Change Grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in an amount not to exceed $20 million for the purpose of implementing climate and pollution reduction strategies, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the City of Atlanta to enter into any necessary agreements with the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency in connection with this grant and for other purposes. Item number 10 is 24R3671, a resolution by Councilmember Jason H. Winston authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of City Planning to execute a partnership agreement between the Path Foundation, Inc. and the City of Atlanta for the Green Resilient Infrastructure and Trails in Westside Atlanta grant application for the U.S. the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Environmental and Climate Justice Community Change Grant Program and for other purposes. Both of these items were favorable in city utilities this morning.
Hello, my name is Jessica Lavandier. I work with the Department of City Planning and the Environmental Protection Agency, using funding from the Inflation Reduction Act, created the Environmental and Climate Justice Program to address environmental and climate justice by creating this grant program. And we're seeking your approval to submit an application to EPA to address climate and pollution in Northwest Atlanta through partnering with Path Foundation for the construction of trails and working with other nonprofits to improve the ecology of where the trails are proposed to be located. So the second one is to enter into a formal a partnership agreement as required by the grant with the Path Foundation. So if the funds are awarded, we'll be implementing the proposed trail system that will connect Hollowell to Proctor Creek.
Got a motion to approve by Councilmember Norwood, second by Dozier. I will add that I'm kind of the person at the group team member that did not participate in this, because this was Councilmember Hillis, who was absent from our last council meeting. But I just want to give him a quick shout out, his team that worked tremendously on this. And so we got a motion to approve and a second by Councilmember Dozier.
All right, thank you.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. It's 5 yeas and 0 nays. There are two held items that are ready. Number 34 is 24R3559, a resolution by Community Development Human Services Committee to transmit the 2025-2029 capital improvements element, which includes capital improvements that the city intends to fund in whole or in part with development impact fees, to the Georgia Department of Community Affairs and the Atlanta Regional Commission in compliance with the requirements of the Georgia Development Impact Fee Act and for other purposes. There's an amendment in your packet that will attach Exhibit A, which is the drafted 2025-2029 capital improvements element.
Afternoon, sorry.
Good afternoon, Rashid Hunt of the Department of City Planning. This is the 2025-2029 CIE. The purpose of this resolution is we have to communicate the resolution to the Department of Community Affairs and Atlanta Regional Commission for their approval. And then once that is approved, it will come back before you all as an ordinance for you all's approval.
Thank you. And colleagues, you have the attached exhibit in your packet. We'll need to amend to attach that. So I'll make a motion to amend. Motion to amend, second by Councilmember Dozier. If you'll please open the vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve as amended. Second. And second by Dozier. If you'll please open the vote.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas and 0 nays.
Thank you.
Item number 37 is 24O-1255, CDP 2407, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2021 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1568, 1572, 1574, and 1594 Evans Drive Southwest and 1130, 1594 Hood Drive Southwest from the industrial land use designation, 1616 and 1620 Evans Drive Southwest from the low-density commercial land use designation, and 1559, 1569, 1573, 1575, 1579, 1585, 1589, 1595, 1599, 1603, 1609, 1615, 1619, and 1623 Langston Avenue Southwest and 1594 Evans Drive Southwest from the single-family residential land use designation to the low-density residential land use designation and for other purposes. This item was heard at the June 5th Comprehensive Development Plan Amendments Public Hearing.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve. We got a second. If you'll please open the vote.
The vote is open. Vote is closed. It's 5 yeas and 0 nays. And that's all of the legislative items.
Thank you. That concludes our legislative items. Any questions, comments, parting words from my colleagues? Seeing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.